Topic for or subject line for my call today is I've titled it, "It's Simple, but Not Easy." And what I wanted to really talk about today is we talk about this a lot, and you'll hear this at the fall tours coming up. This phrase actually comes up quite often. It's simple. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward business plan, business process. But it's not easy. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of dedication, takes people who are willing to really dig in, battle through some learning curve, battle through some adversity. And one of the things has been on my mind as I've been looking at the schedule for the fall tour coming up. When we go out, they always show graphs of some of the agencies that are there. And if you look at the graphs, it's almost across the board. It's going to look the same. Okay, that graph is going to start out, and it's going to be gradual the first 2 to 4 years. I mean, it's going to be a little bit growth, but it's not going to be anything, dramatic or impressive. It's just going to be a gradual upsloping line. Starting around year 4, year 5, year 6, all of a sudden you see that turn up and really start rocketing up big time, huge growth year over year. And the problem with this business is too many people focus on the spike, that upward angle, and not on that gradual incline. What I mean by that is we lose so many quality people on that gradual line because it's too hard, because I'm not getting the success I want, because I'm not seeing the results. And so people focus on the gradual, not the spike. And I equate it to an aircraft that's taking off. Let's say a fighter jet that the pilot is running down the runway, and he lifts off, and he's gradually taking off, and he's growing, and all of a sudden he turns up, pulls the joystick back, and goes straight up. Problem is, we have too many people that as they're leaving the runway, they're just starting to gain some ground, get off the ground a little bit, and all of a sudden, before they get completely clear of the runway, they've hit the eject button, they popped out, hit their parachute. They've parachuted to safety. And that happens too many times. And guys, it's a real tragedy. I will tell you that I don't send contracts out to people who I don't feel like are going to make it. There's some agencies I know out there, not saying anything against what they do. They will send it to anybody. As long as they say yes, they'll send it to anybody. And that's fine. It's a numbers game, and you don't know who's going to win. But if I get somebody on that I just really don't feel like it's a good fit, or is just not going to, they just don't have the right mindset, I won't send it out. So the reason I tell you that is I won't send a contract to somebody unless I really feel like they've got some potential in this business. But even, with that mindset, and even with that safeguard, if you will, I still have way too many people who are bailing out before they even get out of get off the ground. And so again, going back to that graph, if you look, every massive agency from Marshall Whalen to Everett Pritchett on down, Jacob Poe, Brian Delaney, I mean, you look at all the big names in this business, they all started out with that just very gradual 2 to 4 year climb before they really took off. And I guarantee you talk to those guys, and I've talked to a lot of them, and that 2 to 4 year period was not all rainbows and butterflies. In fact, it was a lot of, beating the head against the wall, frustration, several times looking at this and saying, gosh, is this really worth it? Is this worth all the pain and struggle that I'm going through? And I wanted to share that this morning, kind of set that up, because, one of the things that Brian Pope said here a while back on a call, it's been several weeks ago, probably several months at this point, lose track of time, but he said, you just have to make a decision that you're going to be here and you're not going anywhere else. And once you make that decision, then that takes all the pressure off of the results. Meaning, you've got no other option. You're going to be here. If it takes a year, if it takes 10 years, if it takes 20 years for you to achieve what you want to achieve, the decision has to be made before that, but before you get to that success. And so, too many times, again, people are checking out, bailing out because, we're a society that doesn't acknowledge the fact that success in any endeavor takes a lot of hard work. And there's a lot of time where you're going to be putting in long days, late nights. Seems like every turn is going to be a roadblock, but you still have to press forward. And I've got a special guest on with you today. I'm really excited. I've been waiting. I've been kind of watching the numbers, been wanting to highlight this guest because, one of the things as a mentor in this business, we get to see behind the curtain a lot of what's going on in people's lives. We're witness to a lot of the struggle that is not visible to everybody else, even on the group me and people chiming back and forth. In fact, a lot of times, we just don't know everything that's going on. And this lady that I have on today has joined us back in the spring, and from day one, she has been a model agent. And when I say model agent, she has been somebody who just continues to dig in. And the harder it gets, the deeper she digs in, the harder she works. And, one of the things that is a real trap in this business is when we start looking at the leaderboards, whether it be our leaderboards or even on the national level, and we start comparing ourselves to others' results. Guys, the message I want to share with you this morning is don't compare yourself to others' results. Compare yourself to others' activity levels. That's the benchmark. If you've got somebody on the leaderboards that's writing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month, keep in mind the only way that happens is because of their activity levels and because of their growth, and because how much they've invested in getting to that point. But back to our guest, you see her all the time popping on, just the most positive person. And I can tell you the most positive person in some of the darkest times, because again, I've been privy to some of the behind the scenes and what's going on. But she is somebody who consistently, week in, week out, puts in a ton of dial time. And our guest this morning is Stella Dinwiddie. Just so you kind of understand what's been going on, and I'm not going to talk about the details. If she wants to share that, that's fine, but I'm not going to dissect all that. But I want to focus more on the effort that she's put into, not only into the business, but into herself and growing and becoming a better person. And again, you see her on the group me all the time, so positive, so upbeat. And I can tell you a lot of those times when those positive messages came up, it was during times where she was kind of going through some dark times personally. And, but just in the last couple of weeks, this week alone, she's got a 71% close ratio on her appointments. Last week, she had an 80% close ratio on her appointments. She, on the month, she doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to tell everybody, she is the number 2 writer in my master hierarchy, second only to Mr. John Paul Vetter, and she's actually only about $1,200 off of catching him. I don't know if she's got any more appointments or anything else in the pipeline, but she is second only in the master hierarchy to John Paul Vetter. And, as good as she's doing right now, she's got bigger goals and set her sights higher. And so, Stella, I'm going to unmute you right now and bring you on, and just, this is something that I've been waiting to do. I've been watching your growth, and I feel like just the timing's right. And I know this is not something that we're necessarily, you feel like you've made it, you've peaked out, you've topped out, you're still on that climb, you're still on that growth. But you definitely, what I wanted to highlight is the amount of effort that you put in. And have you talk a little bit about mindset? Because again, everything that's been going on in your life, and just for those of you who don't know, she's got a couple of kids. single mom, and so she's balancing family life and doing this business. But she has really dug in and consistently put in the activity every week and wants to put in more activity. So Stella, pop on here and kind of talk with us a little bit about your journey so far with Symmetry and how it's been.
Thank you, Chris. Can you hear me?
I do hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm like totally honored to even be asked to talk here amongst all of you great people. I didn't, that was a surprise what you said. I didn't, I started crying because you know my goals. I'm not even halfway there. And if there's any of you out there, like Chris talked about, feeling frustrated because you came into this business thinking that you were going to just crush it from day one, that was me. I had a successful background in property management and in the industry of sales, and had lots of awards, and thought, well, I did that, I have relationships with people, I can do this. So I jumped in and told all my friends about this awesome opportunity that I found, and I told myself and my family, and I thought that I was gonna do what everybody else did, make 40, 50,000 a month from straight off the bat. And I came in and I didn't have any money, so I bought 50-cent leads, and I had a little money, and I made a lot of calls, like Chris said, but I fell on my face because I didn't achieve my goal, and I think my first week I made like 7 or 8, 9 calls. And I didn't, but I used $250 dials as my cap and not my floor. I don't know, I just saw that, oh, you make 250 calls and make 12 to 15 appointments. And I came on the board and I was like, I'm gonna make 15 appointments this weekend. And I was all gung-ho. And when it all didn't happen, I got really frustrated, super frustrated, because I can tell you that it seems like you can just come in, you hear all the audios, you hear all the videos of everybody performing, and you get yourself all excited and hyped up that I'm gonna do it. And then when you don't, you become very frustrated. The good news out of that for me is it taught me a lot, and I'm still learning so much. But my biggest learning curve was, and I heard this at the last conference, was faith and courage without discipline is mediocrity. So I made calls, but then there were times when I didn't make that many calls. And I was, I got pulled away. I got yanked by the distractions, whether it was giving my kids rides or doing something else or whatever it was, because you put in all of the dial time and then you just, you can do two things. You feel like, oh my gosh, this is all I do. And it's not all you do, but it can feel like that. So it becomes mundane. And then you also feel like you feel rejected, because especially when you're starting out on 50-cent leads and the other leads where they're older, they're good leads, but they're older. So you have to dig that much harder, and you have to combat more rejection from people. It works with your psyche. And, and I was questioning myself a lot. I had a lot of tears, and, I was telling Chris, I know I can do this. I know I can do this, but I don't know why I'm not there yet. And I am so grateful to this day for your support, Chris, all the while going, you know what, I see your activity, you're trending upwards. You may not see it, feel it, but you're, just stay at it. And all of you hear Jeremiah always, talking on the boards of just stay the course, just show up. And he couldn't be more right. And Chris asked me beforehand if I would maybe talk to some of you who don't see those results right up front, and how did I make those improvements? And I will tell you, it started with myself first. The things that I did were by accident, my son, I have a 16-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter, and my 16-year-old son is my biggest supporter, and he's my best critic. And he would overhear me, and he would say, "Mom, you you sound canned. You sound like a marketing caller." And he would tell me all these things that I was doing wrong. And so it's like, really, and it was over time. At first I didn't sound like that, but over time, because I tried too hard to put in all these different recordings that I heard, and Chris had always warned me, just stay with the basics, and then you'll learn your own style. You'll get your own. And so I listened to that, but at the same time, I'm like, well, this person made it work, that person made it work. And so I was trying to push too much into my style, and it just came out whacked. And so I started listening to my own recordings, and that's what I love about Dialers. You can listen to your own recordings. And so, and then I so after a while I would send them to Chris, and I would say, okay, what do you think I'm doing wrong? And if you are not closing on your appointments at first, I can't recommend enough. I know that we don't like to hear ourselves talk. I certainly don't. At one point when I sent him a recording, I said, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even want to make an appointment with myself, because I sounded like just a weak little puppy. You could hear the lack of confidence in my voice, and you could hear the begging in my voice. And it developed over time of being rejected. So be careful of that. Listen to yourself and have other people critique you. It will help you, and take that in. And this is part of self-development. Write down what your, then when you go into role and purpose, when you start to go out into meeting with people, write it down. I remember the first time, my closing ratio was probably 10% when I first started out, and for different reasons. But I asked Chris, I don't, he said, well, let's listen to your role and purpose. So we did a Zoom call, and I was all over the place. It was so just bad. I can't memorize things very well. So I had to write it down over and over and over and over. And I did apply, the symmetry reel process. And then after that, it just, some of the biggest things, again, I have to tell you is myself. I really had to focus on myself, because there were weeks when I didn't make as many calls that I could have. If I'm honest with myself. And then there were times when the timing of the calls, and reaching people. And there was a matter of being able to afford more leads, or, maybe some leads that weren't as old. But for the most part, it was really developing on myself, and I still continue to do that, because I told Chris my goal, I was walking in here, was to net at least 20,000 a month. And that means that I need to mentally make about 40 to 50,000 APV each month. So I'm not even halfway there. And so the self-development is continuing to help me with, like you said, don't compare yourself to others, because I did that and I felt like a failure. But I can't look at that. I have to look at my improvements. So maybe in the beginning it was 2,000 a month APV. Maybe the next month it was 5,000 a month. And I didn't really see it until he pointed out to me the trending upward of my income. And so don't get frustrated when it doesn't happen right away. A long time ago in some audio, I heard Sarah Pappas say that, I don't know what your learning curve is. And I thought, everyone back in the day at all my employment would say, oh, you're a quick learner. Well, you know what? For some reason, I didn't get this quickly. And there are other times I didn't get things quickly. It doesn't mean that I'm less intelligent. It just means it just took me longer. And the same for you, for whatever reason. You heard John Paul Vetter on the other day talk about how, we have people, that come in from high corporate status, and they can't get people to buy their product, or they can't make the appointments, and the rejection, can really play with your psyche. So there's things that I have pasted everywhere. It's, really, truly, that belief system. Watch your thoughts, because they become your words, what you end up saying out loud. If you catch yourself saying, I just can't do this, or I don't know why I'm not doing it, don't instead ask yourself, well, how can I? Well, how can I make this happen? Because persistence is key. It's just the biggest thing. Persistence, belief. You hear about unwavering faith. Well, and there, I read the Bible every morning, and I love God's word. Sorry, but I do, and there is so much in there about faith, about just your. I told you I have a bad memory, but I can tell you that your faith in what you do, is everything. What's his name? Jacob Pogue said at the conference, faith is the largest level of belief that yields the largest results. And that's in anything and everything that you do. And your courage, he said, don't let fear stand in the way of your growth. And that was a big thing for me. So I just, every day, constantly, even when I didn't believe in myself, I would listen and read constantly. The Slight Edge, that book is a must read. You hear everybody talk about it, but I'll tell you, it is huge for me, because, and it will be huge for you if you're not seeing your results yet, because he talks about everything from how the little mundane activity every single day will make a difference. And I won't get into all of the book, but you have to read it for yourself, because his biggest thing is how simple disciplines compounded over time is what's going to help you yield your results. So you may not see it today or tomorrow. The biggest example that I'll give you real quickly is people go on a diet. And this is the little simple examples he gives. And you say, oh, well, I'm not going to, I didn't eat sugar today. I didn't eat fattening foods today. And you go every day of the week. And then at the end of the week, you're like, well, I haven't lost this 50 pounds yet, so this isn't working. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen in a week. You have to keep doing it. And over 6 months, I bet you, if you still do that, you're going to see you drop 50 pounds. And the same thing if you eat a ho-ho or some, pecan pie every single day into your meals. Maybe in 1 week, you're not going to see yourself gain 40 pounds. But I guarantee you, if you eat a box of ho-hos or a box of, donuts or a box of chocolate candies every single day, after 6 months, you're going to see yourself gain weight, right? So it's the same thing with dialing and calling. Natural progression. I just can't stress it enough. And just stay positive. That's, I'll tell you that the thing that, I feel very, very grateful and blessed that God has, given me is a positive attitude. But you know what? That's not everything, folks. That, I learned that big time. I lacked discipline. And that was a big, huge deal for me when I heard that at the conference, was that courage and faith, without discipline is mediocrity. And that made me understand, oh my gosh, you are a mediocre performer because you're not disciplining yourself with everything that they're telling you in this system to do with the dials. And so that's a big thing. Just push yourself. And when you feel like the world's caving around you, I mean, in the beginning, I barely had any, and this will resonate with some of you. Just as I started writing, I did, you bank on that money, right? You're like, oh my gosh, you get a taste of being able to see a $800 commission. and then that person cancels. And then you're like, how am I going to buy more leads? How am I going to pay my bills? And I mean, I can tell you many times in the beginning, I've literally on the floor, my knees begging God and crying and saying, okay, please, I need help. I know I can do this. It's not happening. And, if you ask of his wisdom and, and courage, he will give it to you. I know many of you know this. So just push yourself. And that's Dana L said that at the conference. This is why I love conference, because it every time it builds me up. We have our own level of determination and persistence and belief, but it can really crackle and sizzle at times when we're not performing. And so you go to these conferences and you hear these other testimonies from people that are in your situation or have been in your situation, and it helps build that belief again. And that's what it did for me with Dana Else. She said, push through your problems. And so I visualized myself when I was going through all these problems. I mean, a lot of you know, I posted that I didn't have for the first time in my life, I've never been late on my rent. I've owned houses. I've owned 3 houses for many, many years, for over 20 years. And this, in the last few years, was the first time that I was renting. And I, many of you don't know this, but, back in 2014, I was diagnosed with lymphoma myself and with papillary cancer. And so I went through all these things. And I'm 53 years old. And so there was a time in the beginning of this career path that I'm like, well, maybe I'm just too old, or maybe I don't have the strength. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe this isn't for me. But I told you I'm a positive person. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to listen to that voice. And other people did it. And then I heard these testimonies from other people out there that they were older when they started. Danny Young, there's so many people out there to name. And I will tell you, don't let anything hold you back. If you believe when you first started that you can do it, then you need to keep believing it, because you can do it. Because if I can do it, and if anyone else can do it that you see on these leaderboards can do it, they can do it. And I'm halfway through my goal. But I will tell you, hearing you say, Chris, that I was second on this list next to John Paul Vetter, I had to duck my face because I started crying, because it's been a really, really rough road, and it still is. I'm not there, and I'm grateful for every single family that I can help. And that's the other thing, you remind yourself your big why. What's your why? For me, it's to get my kids out of here and get them into a house again. I want a house. I write it down. I visualize it. I see it. I look at real estate listings, and I know it's there. So whatever your big why is, that's the biggest piece of it. It's not being here, it's not about recognition. It's not about the money. The money, yes, the money is important, because I can't fulfill my why without the money. But so the why is the biggest thing. Why did you get into this? Why are you here? And yes, it's to help people. And so I had 2 big whys. One was I wanted to put my kids in a house, and how could I do that? I made, $70,000 on average before a year in my other jobs, but how can I do that in a different career path? Because my old career they were very greedy. Property management can get very greedy, and I didn't like having to give a $100 to $500 rental increase to people who are on fixed incomes. That just wasn't right. I got tired of that. So I wanted to get into an industry where I could still serve. Well, how can I and make money, and something that I could do? Well, this opportunity came up, and I said I could do this. So don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up. Don't give up. If you're on the cusp, just keep at it. Keep at it. Keep at it. Don't give up. The biggest thing. And, improve yourself. We all think that, well, I don't need improvement for whatever reason. But I'm here to tell you, man, I needed a lot of improvement and I still do, and I know that. So don't ever stop working on improving yourself. And things that I listen to, I love Jim Rohn. I love the book on the Slight Edge. I love the Miracle Morning. You don't have money like me. You can get free audios from your local library. The most recent one that I found is one of John Maxwell's. It's, I can't remember what I think it's The Laws of Leadership. I just started that one and it's beautiful. And just Les Brown audios on YouTube. Go for no when you get frustrated with dialing. I used to constantly, I'd write big notes all around myself, that I could see and visualize, because I know that, I would get frustrated because go for no. So then I mentally told myself, okay, give me another no, because I know I'll be that much closer to a yes coming. And then lastly, another thing that has helped me is sometimes I'll tell myself, we all have dial days on Friday and Saturday, right? Well, don't limit yourself to just Friday and Saturday. You can dial other days. You don't have to do it all day long and make it seem long and grueling. What I do is I will mentally tell myself, you know what, Stella, just go and just try to get 1 or 2 appointments, just 1 or 2. And so I'll jump in and I'll call, maybe, I have time in between my appointments or afterwards or in the morning. And I will purposely try to see if I can reach people at different times of the day. In the morning, sometimes I found between, 8 and 10 a.m. I can reach more people. Other people, I can reach them better between 7 and 8 o'clock. Other people in the afternoon. But everyone has different work schedules. So don't just limit yourself. So don't limit yourself. Don't give up, and keep pushing through all your challenges. Embrace the challenge. When you feel like crying, because we all do in this business, tell yourself, you know what, fear, I recognize you now. I know who you are, and I am not going to listen to you today, because I know that I could do this. And I've done it, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to keep doing it. So enrich your mind, renew your mind every single day, because remember this, I wrote this down because I loved it. Watch your thoughts, because they become your words, and then watch those words, because they become your actions, and watch your actions, because they definitely become your habits, and then watch your habits, because that becomes your character, and then watch your character, because that's going to become and build your destiny, because what we think, we become. And if you feel frustrated that, well, I don't deserve this, well, you're right. But you know what? Somewhere along the way, you did something to deserve it, because like Jim Rohn says, life doesn't hand us what we need. It gives us what we deserve. So when you want your life better, well, it all starts with you. And I have to remember that. So what am I doing to make my destiny? What am I doing? How I do anything is how I do everything. And Jeremiah said once on a call that my brain believes what I tell it. So what are you telling your brain? I have that written up on my wall. I have a ton of things written up all over my wall because I need it. So do what you need to do to get yourself there. And you'll get there in time. Don't get frustrated and don't give up. If I can give you one takeaway that helped me, is just don't give up.
So that's awesome. Just for context, and again, when I talk about Stella battling through, while she was talking, I had meant to do this earlier, and I hadn't gone back and looked at the numbers. But a lot of she's been putting in a ton of activity. And actually said maybe not always consistently, but she's even on her less consistent weeks, she's put in more activity than a lot of people on this call. If I'm just being honest and frank. And here's the thing. We talk about massive action, but massive action doesn't always equal massive results immediately. It has to be the application of massive action over and over again. So if you do a weekend of 250, 300, 500 dials, and you don't get where you want to get that week, doesn't mean that, let's just wad up the game plan, throw it in the trash because that didn't work. Now that means you got to go back out and do it again. And just to kind of back that up, like I said, Stella's activity, and I don't have those activity numbers in front of me, but there's a lot of weeks where it was 250, 300, 400, 500 dials, and she still wasn't where she wanted to be on appointments. And from a production standpoint, in April she wrote about $6,000. May, of course, we're coming off conference, and so we had a little backup there with the travel time and everything, but a little over $2,000. June right at 12,000. July right at 12,000, and then this month we're knock on $21,000. So you see that progression, and it didn't happen because she put massive action in April. And trust me, she was putting on a lot of weeks in where she was doing that 300 plus dials, but it had to build. The momentum had to build. And the thing that impressed me about you, Stella, is you're an excuse eliminator. I mean, I don't know if I've ever had anybody going through as much as that you've been going through with health in the past and family and all the things that kind of distract you. But I can tell you guys from the conversations that I have with her on a regular basis, it always comes down to, well, I just got to keep improving. I got to get better. She's saying, I have got to get better if I want the results. And too many times I hear from somebody, well, this happened, so I couldn't do the dials, or I couldn't get my appointments because of this schedule happened. And guys, I mean, that's a reality. I'm not discounting that, but that's a reality that we all face. And going back to the graphs of some of the top performers in the business, guess what? They all have families. They all have distractions. They all have things going in their life that take them away from being absolutely 100% efficient. And the thing that's missed a lot of times in this business is you don't have to execute this system perfectly. You just have to execute it consistently. And too many people won't do the consistent part. That's honestly, guys, the biggest, as I'm looking at all the names on here, and I see several of you that have got, all of you have got so much potential in this business. I literally believe this is a business that anybody could succeed at if they put their mind to and want to. But at the end of the day, are you willing to put in the activity? Are you willing to look at yourself in the mirror when your results aren't there and say, what could I have done better, done differently? What am I willing to invest in myself? In one of our core values, you have to work on yourself more than you do your business. And what you heard from Stella is she is somebody who is constantly working on herself. And it takes time. We're a microwave society. We want to be able to throw everything that we have into a box, hit a button, 30 seconds later, it comes out piping hot, and we're ready to eat it. And that goes with our career, our results, that goes with our family, that goes with everything that we deal with in life. We want to throw it in the box, hit a button, 30 seconds later, it's all fixed and ready to go. And if it's not, then we're ready to pack it in. And well, that obviously didn't work. It's time to go do something different. Or that wasn't a good strategy, or they told me this would work, but it obviously doesn't because, I jumped on the phones this weekend. I made my 250 dials, and I only have 5 appointments. Like Stella said, 250, and this is on us as the company and as the system. We've got to change our message. 250 is your floor. If you're brand new, I hate to be the one to deliver that message, especially if you were told that make 250 dials a week and you'll get your 12 to 15. You might, and I hope you do, and that's the goal. But guess what? 250 is your floor. That may be the minimum that you have to do this weekend. You may have to do 400. You may have to do 500. You may have to do 700. You may have to do 1,000. The top producer in the company, week in, week out, or has been over the last year, and he's kind of scaled back now because he's got a pretty good sized team. But Soon Kim, if you've ever heard of him speak about his first weekend in this business, he made nearly 1,000 dials. Guys, 1,000 dials. And I would be hard pressed, and hey, point the finger back at myself too. This is not me, preaching from an ivory tower. I'd be hard pressed to find anybody who's got that kind of capacity and stamina to put in 1,000 dials over the weekend. that is somebody who is just saying, no matter what, I'm going to make this thing happen. And so, again, the message this morning for you guys is it's simple, but it's not easy, and it takes time. I'm going to be gone, and this is kind of part of this is a little announcement. I'm going to, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to be gone all next week on a trip to. We're going on a trip to Costa Rica, company trip, and I'm really excited about it. It's actually the first company trip that I've gone on. I've missed some because of just bad timing. And in the first year in the business, I can tell you one of the mistakes that I made is I was on track to win a trip, and then I started getting the shiny object syndrome, and I started putting business with other carriers because I like that product. And I probably could sell more of that product, and this probably has a better rate. And I started throwing my business out all over the place instead of concentrating on one or two carriers. And it actually cost me a trip year one. And then beyond that, I've been building an agency, so I haven't had the production numbers, and our agency numbers haven't been at the point to qualify. So anyway, long story short, there's been some delayed gratification there, from my standpoint, because of, number one, poor planning. But number two, it just takes time to build up that point. So I'm looking forward to this next week, but it's taken some time to get there. And had I tapped out in year one, when at the 6-month mark, we had a $50,000 team, and over the next 6 months, that disintegrated to nothing. Had I decided, well, that obviously doesn't work. This recruiting thing's for the birds. So let's pack it in. I can go back to making good money selling windows and siding, and just be a salesman for the rest of my life. Had I given up on some of the lessons that I learned in my first year, where I wrote a lot of business, but then I would have trouble with issue paid numbers and maybe not getting as much as it should approved. But I had to look inwardly at that point and say, okay, well, what do I have to do to get better? And, for me, that was actually hiring a sales trainer, personal coach to work with me on some of the things that I was doing in the home and get better at that. So this is a business. Sometimes you have to invest in yourself, and you have to work on yourself more than you do your business. And again, I've been excited and kind of waiting, because I knew this was going to happen eventually with Stella, where we're going to see, and don't get me wrong, her numbers have been trending up. But this month, when I saw that big spike, and this is not a spike that I'm looking at as temporary. I mean, this is her taking a big step towards her ultimate goal, that next level. And I don't know what next month holds for her. I have a feeling it's going to be more, but even if it's a step back, maybe even it's only 15,000, I'm not worried about that, because again, we're talking about consistency. And what I'm seeing with her is consistency of effort, consistency of growth, consistency in activity, consistency in personal development. We're going to get to that $40,000 a month number, and we're going to do it a lot quicker than anybody can even imagine. It may happen next month. I don't know. It may not. But what I do know is, with the effort that she's putting in, and the fact that she's not taking any excuses, and more importantly, not taking any excuses from herself, that this will happen. I know it's going to happen. And so my challenge to all of you out there is, when we're reading off these leaderboards, whether it be for my agency or when you're listening to National Call and you're hearing some of those big numbers, 10, 15, 20, 30, $40,000 in a week that's being written, that you don't look at that number and say, well, why can't I do that? Or they've obviously got an advantage. Or I don't know where they're getting their leads, but they've got to tap into something that I don't have. No, that person, the Soon Kim, the Jeremy Whitakers, those people just outwork you. Bottom line, I've talked with these guys. I've sat down with them. I've met with them. They work harder. They work harder on the business. They put more activity in. They work harder on themselves. They do more personal development than anybody. And if you're not happy where you're at in this business, and we've got a lot of people, I mean, like when I looked at the leaderboard today, I was really pleased to see that a lot of people are taking some steps forward. Some people are still kind of hanging back. And if you're not happy with where you're at in this business or your growth, whether it be on personal production or team building, you got to look in the mirror. You got to look at the mirror. What can you do to improve yourself? But then reach out to your upline, because you've got somebody somewhere in your hierarchy who is making it happen, and tap into that person and find out what are they doing to get where they're at and where they're going. If you don't feel like you're having the success that you want to have or you need to be having, again, look in the mirror and then pick up the phone and get with somebody to help you get where you want to go, and then do it. Do it. At the end of the day, we're going to put the game plan together for you on how to be successful in this business. But we can't sit there with you and pick up the phone and make those dials. You know, if you're turning in a 70 or 100 dial weekend, even 150, maybe even 200 dials, if it's not getting you where you want or where you need to be on appointments, we can't help that. At the end of the day, it's got to be you, and it's got to be your activity. So, guys, really appreciate all you being on the call list today, and I hope you take this to heart. I hope you take this message, and then one of the reasons why, again, I wanted to have Stella on is here's a real life, living, breathing example of somebody who is digging into the system, who didn't right out of the gate have, you know, the quote unquote success. Although I contend that she's had success all along, it's just been delayed. It's that delayed gratification piece again that we're all that we all are impatient for, and that growth curve again, that the hockey stick where, you know, people are bailing out on that gradual before you get to the spike. That's part of that delayed gratification. So you got to put in the work today, this week, this month, this year, before you get those results coming out on the other end. So thank you again, Stella, for being on this morning, sharing that message. That was awesome. Couldn't have done it any better yourself, and congratulations on the month that you put together. I'm excited to see what the rest of the year holds for you, because it's going to be awesome to watch. I know we're fast approaching that $40,000 a month number, so I'm excited to see that. Guys, a couple announcements here before we wrap up the call. Leaders Summit coming up in November. If you want to build an agency, really, if you just want to get better in this business, you want to be at that meeting. It's non-conference. It's a different meeting altogether. It's a different format. It's an opportunity to be around the top leaders in the business, but you're also, it's just different because you're going to be getting an inside view, an inside track of what's coming down the pipe for this business. Okay, so tap into that. Make sure you get there. Fall tours, guys are putting out the schedule. They're updating those. Some of those didn't have dates or times. They were still working out the venues. Fall tour, make sure you get to one of those events and get somebody with you. This is something that we don't highlight enough. So find a fall tour within driving distance, even if you have to fly. Get there, but take people with you. Guys, I can't stress how important that is. We've had some major businesses, some major agencies launch by people just attending one of these fall tour events and then bringing a couple of friends, a couple of family members with them just to check it out. And that's the perfect way to introduce it. Hey, you know, here's what I'm doing. Here's my business. We're going to have an overview of the business model. You get a chance to ask a lot of questions from some of the top people in the company. So why don't you come with me just a couple, 3 hours, learn about the company, learn about the process, and see if it's right for you. You know, too many times we try to talk people into this. Let's not focus on that. Let's just focus on getting people there. Let the system do the work for you. So check out the schedule on the Symmetry website and get to one of those fall tours. Last thing I will say is our Symmetry at Sea. Guys, that's going to be in April. Make sure that you get signed up for Symmetry at Sea. There are discount codes available. There are payment plans. So, this is all inclusive, and it's going to be an event for everybody to get together. We're going to be on a boat, so all the top people in the company can't run from you. They have to sit and talk to you, and you get an opportunity to pick their brains, walk up to Marshall Whalen, Ed Bridget, all those guys. I'm joking because those guys are actually very good to talk to, very friendly, and they're willing to spend time. But this is going to be a unique event in that we're, like I said, we're literally a captive audience. Unless somebody's jumping overboard, nobody's going anywhere. So you get a chance to interact with these folks on a regular basis throughout that time period. Jeremiah, I think I saw you pop up. And get Jessica back in here and tell her we want her on the call.
Oh, she can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, she's mad at me. She didn't know I had the camera on. But yeah, I appreciate it. Just two things. I just adore Miss Stella. Something. I feel like I'm just the smartest man in the room right now. Although I know it wasn't nothing to do with me. But I can remember very specifically on doing a phone training call, and I just said, Stella, you just got to be yourself. You just read the script, get better at it, but just be yourself. And I think that has shown to be the best advice anyone could ever give. And I think I'm thankful that I had the opportunity just to give that to her, because it's just watching her numbers and stuff. I really love that. So appreciate your story today, Stella. And then Chris, just wanted to congratulate you and just really thank you for your leadership. Knowing that you're going to go on this trip next week, it's incredible. You've paid your due, and I had the fortunate ability to go last year to the one in Puerto Rico, and I can't imagine what this one in Costa Rica is going to be like. I understand there's going to be monkeys flying around everywhere, but just the way the symmetry does it. So I'm so excited for you. The one thing I'll warn you on is be prepared. It's going to ruin your family vacations for the rest of your life, because it's going to be the nicest hotel, and just the treatment you're going to receive. Your next time you take your wife and kids to a nice Holiday Inn or whatever, they're going to be thinking, what is this, Dad? So just be prepared for that. But just so grateful to be a part of this team, and just appreciate you. Just wanted to chime in real quickly, and I love this call today, and I don't, like I said, just want to congratulate you on that. And Stella, love you, girl.
I appreciate that. That's the first I've heard of the flying monkey, so now I'm a little bit nervous about what's in store for us. So
Costa Rica, that's what they say. There's monkeys flying everywhere in the trees.
And Stella, I just wanted to chime in for a moment. I'm so proud of you and what you've come through in your journey, and you just killed it today on the call. And I just want to give you kudos for that, ma'am. Congratulations. Outstanding job.
Hey, and we've got until midnight Eastern on turn-in, so you still can't run down John Paul, knock him off his perch for leader for the month.
Let's get it. Get it.
Very good. Guys, I appreciate each and every one of you on the call today. Go out and make it happen for yourself and for your family. You've got the recipe, you've got the roadmap. The only ingredient missing is you. So take it, run with it, go out there, make mistakes, make a mess. That's the biggest thing, that too many people are tentative and they don't want, I don't know enough, I'm going to screw this up, whatever excuse that they come up with. Guys, no excuses, just go out, make the mess, and we'll fix it. And that's how you learn too. So congratulations again, Stella. Congratulations on an awesome month. I'm excited to see where the numbers end up officially, but great call today. Thank you all for being on. Next week I will not be on, but we'll have some substitutes on. I'm working on that. Next week, I believe, and we're working on this, we should have a rep from John Hancock on to talk a little bit about their program. So tune in for that, and then we'll have some special presenters as well. So thank you all. Have a great week. Set up a big first week for September. And guys, a lot of you are either on pace for promotion, getting ready for your second month, or hey, you just hit your second month and now it's time to load up and get ready for the next promotion. So keep watch on those promotion guidelines and know where you've got to be for every month.
Chris, reminder, it's double production next week.
Oh yeah, it is double. Yes, double production counts for the contests and counts for not. I don't want to say it counts for promotion because I think it's actually just for contests and trips and stuff like that. But yeah, double production for the numbers. So awesome, guys. Have a great week. Thank you all for being on the call. I'll let you go, get on with your day, get a big week set up next week. Appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great weekend.